Good evening. This is Belonging, a weekly conversation here at Green Hills Christian Fellowship every Wednesday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. I'm glad you are able to join us tonight, whether through Facebook or YouTube. Sit tight. We're going to be having another exciting conversation. And tonight, this evening, we'll focus on the power of forgiveness in a broken world. A conversation on peacemaking. We'll be talking to a lovely couple this evening. And two words best describe this couple. Opposites attract. Those are the two words. Opposites attract. He graduated from the Ateneo Law School and studied in Harvard School. She, on the other hand, graduated from the UP College of Mass Communication and earned her master's degree in communications from Wheaton College in Illinois. He used to work in an FM station. On the other hand, her voice is heard on the AM band. Both of them are hosts of this program called Masayang Tahanan, a family-oriented radio show heard in several stations all over the country. Both have been trained to conduct biblical peacemaking and Christian mediations through the Peacemaker Ministry in the U.S. Talking to Attorney Aldwin or Winnie Salumbides. He is now the managing partner of the Salumbides de los Santos law firm. And of course, to his lovely wife, Maloi, who is the founder and CEO of a training ministry called Wise Up Global. Though poles apart when it comes to style and personality, God brought them together when they joined the ministry of the Far East Broadcasting Company in 1993. They became the best of friends, and for 7 years, that's a long courtship, Attorney Winnie courted Maloi until she finally gave in. Finally exchanged I-do's on October 21, 2000 by God's divine appointment. Attorney Winnie Salumbides and Maloi Salumbides are parents to Bea and Blessy. They have been choosing to love, forgive, and grow with each other for 20 years now. Wow, welcome, Attorney Winnie and Maloi this evening.
Hi, Pastor Eric.
Grabe, it's good to see you.
Yes, it's great to be here. Thank you for the welcome and the introduction.
Yeah, and feel free to also greet we have viewers both on Facebook and YouTube this evening.
Yes, we'd like to greet all the viewers and followers of Belonging. Thank you so much for joining us in tonight's conversation. And of course, I also would like to greet a very special woman in the life of Pastor Eric Dizon, our Ninang Ruth Dizon. Happy birthday today.
Yes, happy birthday, Ninang Ruth. And syempre, sa buhay rin namin ni Maloi, Pastor Eric, importante si Ninang Ruth. Dahil it was Ninang Ruth who gave me my breakthrough sa FEBC radio ministry.
Yes. Greetings to my lovely wife, Ruth, who I'm living in peace.
Wow.
For the past 25 years, we're going on our 26th. And the topic today is something we have been trying to nurture in our own life together. And I'm sure you guys also will talk about your own journey this evening. And yes, we're going to be talking about peacemaking in different contexts, not just in a marriage, in the home, workplace, and in the general community, or even our nation. So we have two experts here. Experts na ba?
Hindi kami experts kami in fighting, not in peacemaking.
Oh, nako. Very controversial statement yun. Pero because of this dialogue and discussion, we are close to becoming experts in that field. We do not claim expertise, pero little by little, we strive towards getting there.
And our viewers, Pastor Eric might be wondering why we are not in one screen. Why are there two screens? We just want to clarify, hindi po kami magkaaway ni Attorney Winnie. Hindi kami magkaaway ni Hanhan. At para lang mas makomportable kasi masyadong masikip kung halimbawa kami ay magtatabi sa isang screen. So nandun po siya sa baba, ako naman nandito sa taas. Sa kasalukuyan, hindi po kami magkaaway. We are at peace with one another right now.
Baka naninigurado lang kami kasi explanation eh.
Oh, importante na to set the record straight.
That's right. And friends, if we
Pastor
can
Eric,
relate, yeah, go ahead, Pastor Winnie.
oh, even simple discussions, di ba, pagka talagang wala yung harmony, nakakasira ng flow ng kwentuhan eh. Kahit nga yung pagmemerienda, kahit kainan, kahit na masarap na lechon pa yung nakahain dyan, kung yung kasama mo sa hapagkainan eh, hindi mo kasundo, nakakasira talaga ng appetite. So that is really how vital and how important harmony, love, and peace are when it comes to our relationships and our interactions and activities.
Tama, no? Peacemaking is so crucial sa ating mundo ngayon. We live in a broken world. There's a lot of brokenness, not just in our individual lives, but in the family and even in society. And of course, nowadays, punong-puno tayo ng krisis din, no? Sa ating life as a nation. After the pandemic, hindi pa pala after, no? During this pandemic. And then now the storms, the impact of Ulysses. No? But this evening, friends, if you can relate with our guests, a couple, Atty. Winnie and Maloi, and of course, kami rin mag-asawa, hindi lang puro, absent ang conflict and puro peace. Sometimes there's also conflict, and there are many things that bring that about. Let's talk about that first, no? The brokenness in our individual lives, and ano ba ang conflict? What are the usual culprits, no? Bakit ba nagkakaroon ng conflicts sa ating mga relasyon, sa ating buhay?
James chapter 4 verse 1. I have prepared some slides so pwede nating pakita rin yan sa mga viewers natin ngayon. James chapter 4 verse 1 has a wonderful explanation why people fight. Ang sabi doon, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? So, bawat isang tao, each and every one of us have desires. Lahat tayo meron tayong goals. Lahat tayo meron tayong gusto. Now, kapag nag-clash yan, hindi magkapareho ang gusto ni Mr. at ni Mrs., hindi magkapareho ang gusto ng nanay at ng anak, hindi magkapareho ang gusto ng boss at saka ng empleyado. When that clashes, yun, nagsisimula ang fights at saka ang quarrels sa atin. They come from a deep desire which sometimes become idols in our hearts. When we don't get it our way, when we don't get what we want, nagsisimulang magkaroon ng conflict sa ating buhay. That's what James 4 verse 1 tells us about the root cause of conflict.
Very, very true, no? Very, very true. Ano pa naman tayo? We're wired to really think of ourselves, no? That's our natural default, eh. Bago iba. Of course, si Atty. Winnie hindi makarelate dyan, no? Kasi you're very selfless and...
How I wish na talagang totoo yung ganun description. Pero hindi, that's really part of our human nature. Na yung ating sentro, nagiging sarili natin, yung ating mga gusto, yung mga naisin, pero pagka mas naging fixated tayo dun sa mga gusto natin, lumalaki ng lumalaki yung ganung pakaramdam to the point na sabi nga ni Maloi, nagiging idol na sa puso natin. That becomes the center, not just of our interest and concern, but even a flashpoint for conflicts. Dahil ginigit natin we are asserting what we want, what we think is right, what we desire, to the expense of other people na hindi na natin sinasaalang-alang yung kanilang pananaw, yung kanilang point of view. Talagang we are so focused on our own desires, on our own wants, on our own perspective.
Umiinit po ang ating discussion on what are possible causes of conflicts, and at the forefront of it is self, no? The more we think and focus on ourselves, the more frustrated we become. And the more angry we become, especially at others who may not be like us, no? We have some people joining us, and I'm not sure if you can see the chats on the right side of your screen there, Malloy and
Yes,
Attorney.
I can see that. I can see it.
Yeah. Good
Ayan.
evening kay Herdita. Uh, welcome. Thank you for listening. Of course, a few others, Doc Cynthia, marami tayong medical doctors ngayon, and a few
Wow.
colleagues also here. And so my wife, I think, is also, ano siya ngayon, day off, nag-day off dahil broadcast. Hindi,
Birthday.
day.
Birthday Eve.
Dahil
Oo. Tapos pinag-uusapan din natin yung common causes of conflict. According to ito mga research na to, mga survey, bakit ba nag-aaway ang maraming tao? Ito yung lumalabas na ilan sa mga top reasons or causes of conflict. One is miscommunication. Yan. Maraming nag-away dahil mali ang intindi, mali ang napakinggan o kulang yung nakarating na mensahe. Meron ding mga nag-aaway because of personality clashes, di ba? Kami ni Hanho, ang dami namin ganitong mga experiences dahil ibang-iba yung aming mga personalidad. He's an introvert, ako extrovert, gusto niya katahimikan. Ako naman kasiyahan ko yung palagi kaming nag-uusap. So, iba-iba yung style naming mag-asawa. I'm sure sa workplace context, nararanasan din yan. Competition for resources. Nakita natin recently sa pagdating halimbawa ng mga sundalo natin, pupunta sila dun sa mga typhoon-affected areas. Merong mga nagkakagulo because of competition for resources. Gusto ng iba, mauna sila doon sa pila. Yung iba naman, sumisingit. Authority issues. Sa mga wives, maraming mga wives, ang problema, submission to the husband. Yung iba naman, nahihirapan mag-submit sa mga authority figures because of some traumatic experiences while growing up. Unmet expectations can also be a common cause of conflict. Different opinion. Di ba ang dami nito, Han-Han, Pastor Eric, sa social media lang, ang dami-daming nag-aaway at nagdedebate because of differences of opinions. And then, differing values and goals can also be a cause of conflict in the family, in the church, in the workplace, and even in our country.
By the way, yung unang-una sa list mo, yung miscommunication, no? In this digital age, in this age of chats and text messages, emails, you only deal with text, no? Aming nagkakaroon ng miscommunication, ng misunderstanding. O kaya wrong send pala.
Oo, nangyayari nga po yan, Pastor Eric. Kasi a lot of dimensions are not present in that kind of communication through SMS or chat. Kasi syempre nawawala yung intonation, wala rin yung facial expression, wala rin body language. So ang daming room for interpretation at pagka maraming room for interpretation, talagang papasukan ka na ng iba't ibang klaseng possibilities. Intonation, wala rin yung facial.
Ayan.
Mayroong sumususog dun sa sinasabi natin. Ano?
Yeah.
Second emotion.
Nag-agree na
Oo.
yung self mo, Attorney Winnie, sa
Oo nga, kaboses ko nga. Totoo. At yun nga, hindi rin natin maiwasan na nare-recall din natin yung mga pinakang fresh na mga pangyayari kung saan nagkaroon ng conflict. Sabi nga ni Maloi, yung iba nagdedebate, pero hindi kailangan magkaroon ng debate para mo masabi na mayroong conflict. Kasi minsan, kahit tahimik ang tao, he can be boiling up inside. Na talagang nandun na yung galit, yung sigalot, pero hindi outward, hindi overt. But conflict is there even if there is no debate.
So yung internal conflict actually be, ano ba yun? Could find expression on the wrong person, no? May galit ka, may tinanim, pero sa ibang tao. Kaya lang, pag na-encounter niya itong isang sitwasyon, isang tao na parang similar dun sa experience niya with the other person.
Oo, tama. Talagang sometimes the object of your anger is misdirected or misplaced. Kagaya yung nangyari sa akin kahapon. Nagpa-deliver kami ng pagkain. Sobrang na-late yung magde-deliver ng pagkain. So ang galit ko napunta hindi dun sa rider who's responsible for the late delivery of the food item, pero doon sa inutusan ko, which to me is not really justified kasi hindi naman siya yung dahilan kung bakit na late yung delivery ng pagkain eh. Napag-utusan lang. Pero that kind of parang feeling aggravated by hunger really makes people irrational and running on a short fuse.
Tapos yung allocation pa ng resources, naubusan ka nung dessert, Attorney Winnie. Because
Oo. Mabuti sana, Pastor Eric, kung talagang kulang yung pagkain. Mabuti sana kung talagang scarce yung resources. Pero sometimes when you're already upset, even the adequate food before you, in your mind, it becomes insufficient. Na lalong nakakadagdag doon sa init ng ulo, sa galit mo, sa pagkalam ng sikmura. So those combination of different factors can really lead to an explosive conflict.
The list that you cited, Maloy, based on the study, no, napaka totoo nila, no? Yung personality conflict is one common. How do you see that happening in relationships or people? Well, it's not necessarily in your family, but in general or among friends. How do you see that manifest?
Personality clashes can be the cause of very simple conflicts to more complex problems in relationships. Halimbawa, kami ni Winnie, gamitin na lang namin yung experience namin. We've been married for 20 years. Magkaibigan pa lang kami, alam na namin na magkaiba yung aming mga personalidad. Pero, sabi nga ng introduction mo kanina, Pastor Eric, opposites attract. Na-attract siya sa akin kasi lakas ng dating ko. Na-attract naman ako sa kanya dahil kalmadong-kalmado ang kanyang dating sa buhay. Sabi ko, kailangan ko ng kalma sa aking buhay. So what began as the main or starting point of our relationship, kapag pala humaba na ang pagsasama at nanatili yung opposites at walang nag-grow na commonality, that can be a source of conflict. Yung dating wow, ang galing, ang kalmado niyang tao. Kapag pala magkasama na kami at mag-asawa na kami, yung kalma, halimbawa pagdating sa decision making, dahil nga ang personalidad ko go, go, go. Pagkatapos siya naman kalmado, pag-isipan, pag-pray muna natin, tingnan muna natin ang pros and cons. Minsan nagiging source of conflict na ang bagal namang magdesisyon, parang kinakailangan ng umaksyon, hindi pa umaaksyon. So, kung ano yung dati na, wow, ang cute, attractive, ang tingin ko, no, dun sa ganung klaseng personality trait. Later on, kapag nakalimutan ko na ito isa sa mga dahilan why I loved him, why I got attracted to him. Pagkatapos dumarating na yung need na you have to decide now. It has to be quick, di ba? Yun, pwedeng maging sanhi ng conflict later on. Kaya, importante rin, though there may be differences in personalities na na-appreciate natin sa isa't isa, sa husband and wife context, sa marriage, it is also important for the couple to develop things that are common between the two of them, common interests, common advocacies, common ministries, halimbawa in church, para nag-grow din together. Parang tema dito sa ating program, belonging, so that we go together, we belong together.
Actually, in fostering belonging, whether it's home or office, so office medyo interesting yung dynamic kasi you have various personalities, but you have no choice, just like in a family. You have to be together and work together. And well, Attorney Winnie, you operate a firm, no, and a law firm. Do you see that happening? Yung differences of personality coming into play, and make conflict arise, and then how do you cope with it, or how do you actually handle it?
Oh, even in a small workplace setting, lutang na lutang yung mga individual differences of the people who are required to work together. There are those who work best when there's music playing in the background, whether jazz or Earl Clue or classical music. Meron namang iba na talagang gusto nila total silence. But they have to coexist. They have to work together. So, paano yun? So, dyan papasok ngayon yung bigayan
Mhm.
na kailangan hindi naman laging yung preference mo ang mananaig. You also have to learn to adjust to others, their style, their mood, their personalities. You have to cope and you have to also live with that. So it cannot be that you always impose your own will and your desire on others.
Mhm.
So doon din papasok na talagang hahanap ka rin ng hindi lang common ground, consensus at least. You have to bridge consensus, especially if you are a leader in the office.
Mhm.
So kailangan na ma-manage yung mga maliliit na mga irritant na yan eh. Dahil pagka hindi nyo na-transcend yung maliliit na irritant na iipon.
Mhm.
Hanggang sa minsan, biglang natitrigger na lang to the point na sumasabog na yung reaction ay hindi na talagang commensurate doon sa sitwasyon.
Mhm.
So that's where motivation comes in na iisipin mo rin yung kapakanan ng iba, na matuto ka rin na magbigay. You also have to tell others na this is something that is important to them at kung mahalaga ito sa kanila, you will also give value, you will also respect that, and you will also learn to provide that to others.
That's
Hindi parang puro sarili natin.
wow, wow. We've talked about self as one of the key things we need to watch in conflicts, how self plays out. The differences in personality and preferences also come to play and maybe a cause of conflict. So we need to recognize these things pala, no, in order for us to manage conflict and even try to resolve them. Ang bilis ng oras, no? But friends, you are on this weekly podcast called Belonging. We're trying to talk about fostering belonging by focusing on this issue of conflict and peacemaking, which we believe strongly can is an important ingredient in fostering community or belonging. We're talking to Attorney Winnie Salumbides and Maloi Salumbides, a couple, opposites, but are attracted to one another even after 20 years. O, di ba? And still has conflict, but able to manage it better through the years. And mamaya, balikan natin yung ano, no, yung o balikan natin ngayon yung as we invite our viewers to join in our conversation, baka may comments sila, questions or inputs, just post them on Facebook. At balikan natin yung nabanggit nyo kanina na celebrating the differences and then trying to adjust, no? What does it require for people so they're helped in celebrating the differences or in making adjustments, taking those steps? In your experience or in your observation, what are the most effective ways for us to address conflicts in this two manner?
Han, would you like to start?
Oo, syempre, pag pinag-uusapan natin yung celebration, importante dyan yung state of mind eh. Kasi kung hindi ka naman masaya doon sa nangyayari, hindi ka makakapag-celebrate. Kung
Mhm.
hindi mo tanggap yung mga kaganapan at mga nangyayari, mahirap din mag-celebrate. So you really have to tell yourself that this is something worth celebrating, even those differences, especially if you are able to harness the strengths of people and bring them all together. There will really be reasons for a great celebration dahil ang lumulutang dito yung synergy ng mga individual talent, ng mga gifting at saka ng mga strength. At pag lumulutang yon sa bawat isang member ng pamilya o ng opisina o ng simbahan, talagang lahat matutuwa because everyone will benefit from the result of how people use their talents and their giftings to benefit the family, the organization, or the community. A celebration is more genuine in that sense. Whereas if in your mind you are not open to differences or to changes, kung sa isipan mo you are stuck to old ways of doing things, there is already resistance even on a personal level.
Mhm.
Nawala ng room for creativity, for innovation, for acceptance of a different way of doing things, talagang spoiler yon. Nakakadampen, hindi lamang ng mood, kundi it's an obstacle to growth, to success, and to celebration.
Very, very true, no? Kanina nabanggit din ni Malloy yung differences. Parang nawala si Malloy ng mukhang there's some technical problem. Pero kanina nabanggit natin, nabanggit na yung, yung personality differences, no? Napakahalaga din kasi yun in fostering community, no? To recognize each other's personality as different from yours and your personality different to them. So patas yung labanan no? Kung naiinis ka sa kanya, naiinis din siya sa'yo. I mean, putting it in a negative way. But positively speaking, when we say celebrating the differences, there's an acceptance that this person is like this, and we have sort of an explanation why they're the way they are. So medyo naintindihan natin sila. Do you agree na sometimes getting to know members of your family, members of your team at work, and even in church, the more you understand people, the more you're able to celebrate the differences between the two of you or between people?
That's so true. I agree with that 100%. Ano? The more we understand each other, the more we realize that each person is an image bearer of God, that all of us were created in the image and likeness of God, then it becomes easier for us to accept and celebrate our differences. Kasi ang Diyos, hindi natin pwedeng ikahon si God, di ba? Na ako, ito yung komportable ako, ito yung sanay ako, this is my style. Hindi natin pwedeng ikahon si God na kung ano ako, dapat ganun din ang ugali ng Panginoon. God is so complex. He is so infinite. And if we look at other people as God's image bearer, ibig sabihin, kung iba siya sa akin, but he is created in the image and likeness of God, he is God's image bearer, ibig sabihin, from this person, I can see an angle of God or a character of God na maaaring wala sa akin, pero pinapakita niya sa akin na, pwede itong nakita ko sa kanya, he might be reflecting angle or an aspect of God's image na wala sa akin. So it has helped me through the years to appreciate and celebrate other people's differences when God made me realize that they too are image bearers of God.
That's so true, no? I don't know, friends, Tony, Winnie, Malloy, if you have done this, pero ako, I've tried to do this, and it helped me a lot. Yung when you're having difficulty with someone, is to try to find God in the life of that person. Saan na kaya yung...
Very true.
Kasi everyone is in a journey, So always remember that, nga pala, hindi pa tapos. Usapan, hindi pa tapos ang labanan. Ganito siya ngayon, pero hindi pa tapos. And
akala natin madalas ang mga away, yung mga misunderstanding, we often equate them with emotional responses, but they are not really emotional. Oftentimes, they are in the mind. Nagsisimula talaga sa realm ng ating intellect, sa ating utak, sa ating mga perception, bago naapektuhan yung damdamin natin. At maganda yung sinabi mo, Pastor Eric, tungkol sa kahalagahan ng understanding. At pag pinag-usapan natin yung understanding sa salita natin, sa Tagalog, maganda yung translation ng understanding, pang-unawa. Pang-unawa, nauuna yung awa, hindi yung sarili mo.
wow.
At sabi ko nga sa sitwasyon namin ni Malloy, ang daming mga sitwasyon na nakikita ko yung kahalagahan ng understanding. Hindi lang personality namin na magkaiba. Minsan pati yung temperature ng katawan namin, pag natutulog kami sa gabi, gusto niya may electric fan o may aircon. Ako, talagang ginaw na. Tapos syempre kailangan pagbigyan. Dahil kahit na ginaw na ako, magbubukas pa ng electric fan o ng aircon, pwede kong isipin, bakit ganon? Lagi na lamang siya nasusunod, pati sa pagtulog. Pero pag pinagana natin yung understanding, pag pinagana natin yung pang-unawa, hahanap ka ng dahilan para siya mapagbigyan. Iniisip ko, mas deserving matulog ng mapayapa si Maloi. She really deserves a good night's rest much more than me dahil ang dami niyang ginawa sa araw na ito eh. Nag-alaga ng mga anak, nagluto, at kung ano-ano pang ginawang mga gawaing bahay. So pagka iniisip mo, yung mga bagay na yon, mas madali na tanggapin, mas madali na unawain, mas madali na maintindihan. That's where understanding comes in. In yourself, in your mind, you have to rationalize. You have to think of reasons why you need to acquiesce, agree, and accept the interest of the other person. Huwag kang humanap ng pintas, huwag kang humanap ng parang reklamo o isusumbat mo. Hahanap ka ng dahilan para mas maging acceptable at lovable yung tao who should be the object of your care, affection, and attention.
Tama yung sinabi mo, Attorney Winnie. Kasi minsan, we try to change people so that they can be like us in terms of our personality, our preferences. Pero hindi pala natin yung trabaho, no? It's not our job to change one another. Lalo na in a marriage situation. And if we try to change one another, the more conflict arises. Kaya meron din siyang aspect ng acceptance. We'll talk more about this when we return to our discussion just a short while. But right now, Maloi and Attorney Winnie, we have a short video testimony. We spoke to a couple in GCF, or Green Hills Christian Fellowship, and they shared with us their journey of belonging in a small group. So let's watch this for a few minutes.
Hello GCF. Asha and I were expats in Philippines in 2015 and 2016. Our home had been at Ortigas, right next to GCF. This made our search for a church very easy. Early on, we met Pastor Larry after a church service as he was greeting people, and he encouraged us to join a growth group. We felt it would be good to know more people at church, so we enrolled our names. And we were led to the incredible MP1 growth group. Initially, we just wanted to check out growth groups. But as we attended more and more sessions, we found ourselves drawn to the Filipino warmth and hospitality.
Aris, Rika, Ochi, Mian, Jason, Menmen, Junji, Anna, Gino, Mary, Dylan, and Missy welcomed us into their fold, and they became our family. We had a lot of fun, having lively discussions on Bible study topics, sharing our lives, and getting together for dinners and games. During weekly meetings, we would share our thoughts, doubts, discuss tough Bible topics, and our personal experiences in faith. We especially loved having a Christian support group whom we could pray for and who could pray with us through life's challenges.
We left the Philippines in late 2016, but kept in touch with our MP1 family through Messenger and Viber. Then, in the midst of all the gloom and uncertainty of COVID and the new normal of online meetings, we were able to rejoin our MP1 family in their weekly get-togethers. We had been studying Psalms for much of the lockdown period and found that in so many instances it was so encouraging and really related to the struggles of the COVID situation. We would encourage everyone to join a growth group because it is really great to have a Christian support group of friends who can pray with you while growing spiritually and having fun times of fellowship together. It is a special relationship. It's a special fellowship and closeness that you would not be able to get during the corporate worship sessions.
Thank you very much, Asha and Jerin, they're now based in Bangkok, but part of the blessing of technology is they're able to still connect with their small groups when they were here in the Philippines. That's the Mamas and Papas One growth group. It's one because it's birth to a few Mamas and Papas small groups here at Green Hills Christian Fellowship. And friends, if you don't belong to a small group, whether in our church or in your particular church, we encourage you to do so because belonging is such a fundamental, crucial part of our life journey. And it's God meant for us not to live alone, but in community with others. But living alone in community with others, part of it is conflicts. Di ba? We're talking to Attorney Winnie Salumbides, his lovely wife also, Maloi. And let's go back to our conversation. We have other sources of conflict, and some of them are unmet expectations, conflict in terms of sharing of resources, differences of opinion. Nako, laganap yan ngayon, lalo na in the advent of social media where people are more vocal and we can really hear one another and we really want to be heard. So, yeah, let's the differences in opinion or unmet expectations. Taas ng level ng frustration ng mga tao ngayon, you know? And what are some of the things that you see are factors that affect this or impact this? Yung root causes niya and some of the things we can do to alleviate conflict or even make peace.
Mhm. One of the things that has been very helpful, and we use this when people ask us how to manage conflict, Peacemaker ministry, it's a ministry that is committed to training people on how to handle conflicts in a biblical way, has the slippery slope of conflict, which I find very helpful. These are common responses. Kanina, we talked about the common causes of conflict. Now, the common responses of people when it comes to conflict can be categorized into three. One is we escape. The other extreme is we attack. But in the middle, and this is what we are called to do as peacemakers, is to work it out. And how do we work out our conflict? We can overlook it. Ano yung overlook? Kung pwede mong palagpasin at hindi naman ito makaka-compromise ng values mo, pwede ka naman makakatulog ka pa kahit hindi mo i-confront yung tao tungkol dito, then overlook it. Just like what the Bible tells us. Before you point the dirt in someone's eye, you take out the log in your own eye first. So, kung pwede mong i-overlook, kasi sabi mo, ako rin naman, hindi naman ako perfect na empleyado, hindi naman ako perfect na boss, hindi naman ako perfect na asawa, nagkakamali rin ako. So, I will overlook this. Pero kung hindi mo na siya kayang i-overlook because the problem is recurring, you need to confront the person about it, mag-progress tayo dun sa pangalawang level of working it out, which is talk to the person about it. Kung hindi nyo kayang ma-resolve yung conflict between the two of you, that is the time that you get help from other people. You ask the help of a friend to mediate. You ask the help of your counselor or of your pastor. Diyan ka kukuha ng tulong buhat sa ibang tao. What I noticed, Pastor Eric, and our viewers today is maraming mga conflicts escalate because instead of confronting the other person and trying to resolve it with the other person as privately as possible, nagiging public na siya kagad. So kahit tao na hindi dapat ma-involve, nagiging involved sila. How does that happen? For example, meron kang hindi nakasundo sa office. Pagkatapos hindi mo kayang kausapin yung tao face-to-face. What you do is to rant about it on social media. Pero halatang-halata naman kung sino yung patatamaan. So the entire internet universe learns about your conflict pagkatapos makakarating dun sa tao. So naging complex na at naging complicated na yung problema, which if it was handled privately, mas madali sanang ma-resolve. So ngayon, dahil
Tama.
public na siya, mas marami na tuloy steps na kailangan gawin para ma-resolve yung simpleng conflict lang dapat. So, sorting it out means overlooking, talking, and if you can't resolve it between the two of you, you get the help that is needed.
Yung escape medyo okay pa siya basta temporary, no? Kumbaga, escape ka muna, magpalamig. Pero yung escaping it altogether is something that should not probably be the case, no? Unless hopeless siguro talaga ang case yung pagpapasa Diyos mo na lang. Pero Atty. Minnie, you were wanting to add something?
Oo, kasi nauuso nga ngayon yung mga nagpe-press con ng kanilang mga sama ng loob eh. Pagka
Oo nga.
na-publicize, pagka pinreskon, talagang yung mga damdamin at emosyon mo, isiniwalat mo sa publiko, mas mahirap nang maayos yan dahil in-involve mo yung napakaraming tao na wala naman silang kinalaman o wala naman silang naging bahagi dun sa problema. Pero marami rin mga tao kasi na iengganyo na sumausaw sa away ng iba. Kaya lalong gumugulo yung problema. Whereas, instead of really trying to spread the negativity and the disagreement, yun nga, if you can just control and manage it in your level, dito naman pumapasok yung personal peacemaking. Well, there is such a thing as assisted peacemaking na may mediation, may conciliation, na meron pang pumapagitna para mag-referee o pagbatiin yung mga tao, part din ng responsibility natin, yung personal peacemaking na i-coach natin yung sarili natin na hanggat maaari, hindi nakakalat pa, na ayusin natin among ourselves. We will just keep this to a small, manageable level. At sabi ko nga, dito rin dapat nasusukat yung growth at saka yung maturity ng bawat isang tao na pag mas marami ka nang nato-tolerate na disagreements at saka differences, you give yourself a high score in terms of maturity and growth. Dahil mas marami ka nang kayang pakisamahan, ibig sabihin yung personality mo talagang nag-i-improve. Pagka mas marami ka nang nalalampasan ng mga trials, misunderstandings, o disagreements, ibig sabihin, hindi lang yung pangunawa mo ang lumalawak, pati yung puso mo, even yung love quotient mo is also improving. So oftentimes we measure success in terms of other tangible things like marami kang pera, maraming uma-attend sa church mo, pero maganda, we also grade ourselves in the area of peacemaking. Na marami na tayong mga away na nalampasan, marami na tayong mga tao na napakikisamahan, nababawasan yung ating mga kaalitan. Those are also growth markers, which I believe matters in the eyes of the Lord. Kasi kay Lord, importante yung relationships. Sabi nga sa Bible, di ba? Before you even go to the altar and give your offering, you have to reconcile yourself with someone who you are not at peace with. So that tells you that in God's eyes, He prefers and He prioritizes relationships more than offerings or gifts. Because really, God looks at the heart of people and not at the pockets or the wallet.
Yeah, we're moving now to not just talking about conflict, but peacemaking, no? And you've highlighted the fact that this is God's desire for us, lalong-lalo na sa ating those who claim we belong to Him or followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. We are really ought to be purveyors of peace, no? Tayo ay tagagawa ng hindi tagagawa ng conflict, kundi tagapag-ayos ng conflict, and not just to fix conflict but also to nurture and develop peace or make peace. Yun. And then you say na yung responsibility na banggit mo, no? We need pala being part of a community is living lives that are accountable, di ba? When we say accountable tayo, responsibilidad natin yung mga kasamahan natin.
Responsibility natin yung mga kasamahan natin, and responsibility din natin to be at peace with the members of our community, and the community could, our family is our first community, our church is another community, our workplace is another community. Sabi nga sa Matthew chapter 5 verse 9, part of the Beatitudes, di ba? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Kaya kung halimbawa ang isang tao palaaway and he or she claims to be a Christian, parang medyo questionable kung halimbawa siya yung palaging pinagmumulan ng away. It might be that there is an area in his or her life that needs to be refined by God, pero isa sa mga marka ng pagiging, sabi nga, children or child of God is being a peacemaker. And then a wonderful reminder from Romans chapter 12 verse 18 is, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. As far as it depends on you, lahat ng pupwede mong gawin, if at all possible, live at peace with everyone. So it is
Napakalinaw, ano?
a command to all of us, especially those who are claiming to be children of God or followers of Jesus.
And when the Lord prayed in John 17, when he actually prayed for his followers before he left, isa sa mga importante niyang pinanalangin para sa atin is really unity. The unity that they have in the Godhead is something that will characterize the unity of his people or his church. And so napakahalaga talaga para sa Diyos at para sa atin. God designed humankind to live in harmony and peace and unity, not to mention His church. Sa simbahan, napakataas ng expectations natin sa bawat isa eh. Kaya napakataas din ng frustration, no? At saka disappointment pag nangyari yung differences of opinion or na-offend ka, hindi na-meet yung expectations mo. Nangyayari ba yun sa simbahan nyo? Saan pa kayo nagsisimbang dalawa?
Eh di kung saan din kayo nagsisimba.
Pero kahit saan simbahan o kahit saan organization mapunta, talagang hindi na natin kailangan maghanap pa ng todo-todo. Talagang nakikita natin yung ganong klaseng mga expectations. Ang problema nito, we expect a lot from others, but what about from ourselves? Maganda, nilalagyan din natin yung sarili natin ng realistic na mga expectations. Na hindi tayo naghahanap ng mga bagay-bagay sa ibang tao, yung sarili natin. Kailangan magkaroon din tayo ng ganong klaseng accountability at saka yung ganong level of proficiency when it comes to loving and dealing with others. Kasi sabi nga nung iba, that's the mark of a true leader. It's not just about the number of people that you lead, but if you're able to bring many people together, regardless of their differences in personalities, opinion, and styles, then that is also the showcase of your leadership ability, whether it's in the context of a church, a congregation, or a growth group. So dapat nag-grow ang mga growth group ay hindi yung parang nababawasan, nalalagas, lipat ng lipat. So those are things that we also need to take into account, that if a growth group is intact, that means that people are learning not just how to coexist, but to accept each other and to love one another.
Tama yung sabi mo, Atty. Winnie, part really of growing is sticking it out, working out the conflict, and then not only working out the conflict, but making peace, nurturing peace within, whether it's a marriage, a family, or a church, or no, is hindi yung escape. Many people do that. Iyoko na sa'yo. Lagi mong binubuksan yung toothpaste sa dulo. Doon para sa dulo. O kaya, ayoko na sa'yo. Kaya, so we escape if our expectations are not met. If we...
Yes, right. Pagka puro escape, pagka puro tinatakasan natin, nawawalan tayo ng success story. Kasi nga, pagkakataon sana yun para makadagdag sa testimony ng pamilya o ng growth group, may nalampasan kaming crisis, may problema kaming na-solve, meron kaming gulo na naayos. Success story yun .
Mhm.
If you always abandon ship, talagang wala kang masasabi na na-experience kayo na success story dahil napagtagumpayan at nalampasan ninyo na pwede mong ibahagi sa iba. And that's so important. If you really have actual experiences of success in the area of conflict, other people will be encouraged. Whether it's a new member in church, whether it's a new member in the growth group, pwede mo masabi, nangyari rin pala sa kanila yun, no? At ang nangyari, hindi sila nasira, hindi sila nagkagulo, naayos sila at nanatili silang together at matatag. That serves as an inspiration for others na kaya rin nila. Nakikita nila na this is also something that is workable as far as our situation is concerned. And they will also strive and aspire to experience that.
We have a few more minutes, and friends, we're talking about the power of forgiveness in a broken world. We have dealt so much about the brokenness of the world and conflict, how those arise out of the brokenness of people or groups or even churches. But now let's, in this final few minutes, talk about this thing called forgiveness, no? This thing called grace. Talk about giving or loving. How important is that in not just resolving conflict, but avoiding it or nurturing peace in a relationship or among relationships? Yes, go ahead.
Forgive.
Yes, the power, di ba it requires us, sabi mo nga Maloy, minsan, kung pwede mong palampasin, palampasin mo na.
Mm-mm.
Hindi naman yun, kasi minsan yun mahirap yung papalampasin mo. It's like, you have to swallow your pride, you have to bear the pain and the hurt and the offense for the sake of peace.
Mm-mm. Pero ang hirap mag-forgive, 'di ba? Probably this is one of the most difficult things to do in life is to forgive someone, especially if you have been hurt, talagang you felt betrayed, hindi ba? Kaya lang mas mahirap ang hindi mag-forgive because if we hold on to our unforgiveness, that can escalate into bitterness. And when we are bitter, mas lalong lumiliit yung mundo natin. Meron tayong mga kakilala, minsan ayaw pupunta sa ganitong lugar kasi natatakot siya. Baka yung hindi niya mapatawad na tao nandun sa lugar na yon o nandun sa party na yon. Merong umaalis sa simbahan kasi hindi makapagpatawad. Merong bigla na lang nagre-resign sa trabaho kasi napagalitan tapos hindi niya mapatawad yung tao. When we hold on to our unforgiveness, it makes our world smaller. We hold on to our unforgiveness. It also causes physical ailments. Nasa mga pag-aaral yun. Maraming mga tao, daming sama ng loob sa buhay. Pagkatapos nagmamanifest yung kanilang unforgiveness sa iba't ibang uri ng sakit.
Mga hypertension, blood pressure, stress.
Merong mga ayaw magpatawad ang nangyayari, hindi lang yung tao na ayaw magpatawad ang nagiging bitter, kahit yung ibang members, halimbawa ng family, nagkakampi-kampi na, hindi ba? It does not benefit relationships. And most importantly, if we want to honor God in our lives and in our relationships, it is really imperative that we learn how to forgive, because to forgive is a commandment of God. To forgive has been exemplified for us by Jesus Christ. Nung pinag-iisipan ko nga itong conversation natin, one of the verses that I came across with is Luke chapter 23 verse 34. On the cross, while he was experiencing all the pain of his suffering, di ba isa dun sa mga sinabi ni Jesus Christ, Father, forgive them for they do not know what they do. An initial step of loving is forgiving. People we truly love, kahit pa napakahirap, makukuha nating patawarin eventually. First, it is to glorify God. We forgive to honor God. Pangalawa, we forgive for our own benefit para hindi tayo maging miserable sa buhay. At pangatlo, we forgive so that we can experience the beauty and the gift of restored relationships. Pastor Eric, hindi ka yata naka-mute yata yung mic.
Oh, we are.
Dinig pag naka-mute ka, no? I hope you can forgive me. Friends natin.
You are forgiven.
Kidding aside, no, naalala ko lang yung binanggit ng ating Panginoon na one of yung nilevel up niya, yung the greatest command or commandment, the twin command of love God, love others as yourself. But he also said in John 13:35, di ba? Love one another. And how do we do that? Just as I have loved you, sabi ni Christ. So the quality of love that we have received and continue to receive pala from the Lord is something we also need to extend to one another. Para natin makayanan yung forgiving, giving way, understanding, and accepting of one another. Yun, self-sacrificing yun, you know. Ang kailangan natin niya, Attorney Winnie, no? Sa atin kinumand yan sa mag-asawa, sa lalaki. Yung
That's true.
Love, no?
Oo, at saka yung yabang at saka yung pride, dapat yung din ang binabawas natin sa sarili natin. Kasi malaking hadlang yon sa pag-enjoy natin ng mapayapang pagsasama. Hindi lang sa pamilya, kundi sa ating simbahan or sa community. Kaya nga sinasabi nga rito na yung pride, not only is it a hindrance or an obstacle, pero yun ang pangsira talaga sa harmony at saka sa peacemaking. At madalas pinag-uusapan namin ni Maloi, sino ba yung magme-make ng first move? Pag umiral yung pride, bakit? Wala naman akong kasalanan, bakit ako ang unang mag-reach out? Ako nga yung nasaktan eh. O bakit ako yung unang mag-first move? Hindi naman sa akin ang galing yung offense, hindi naman ako naka-argabyado. Ako nga yung nasaktan, ako pa yung mag-first move. But we really have to exhibit a more Christ-like character. Kasi as far as God's relationship to people is concerned, it was God who made the first move, even if He is blameless, even if the Lord is sinless, even if God is holy, walang pride. Even if He had power, even if He had every right to insist on Himself, it was God who made the first move. Sabi nga sa Romans 5 verse 8, God proves His love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Hindi naman sinabi rito na minahal tayo ni Lord nung tayo ay nagbagong buhay na. Hindi naman sinabi rito na tayo ay ni-reach out ni God nung tayo ay naging mababait na. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Tayo yung may atraso, tayo yung nakasama ng loob, tayo yung nang argabyado, pero tayo yung inaabot ng pagmamahal, pag-unawa, at kapatawaran ng Panginoon. So talk about making the first move.
Wow. Kaya nga kinumad din sa atin, love your enemies, ano? For those of us who claim to be followers of Christ, it's a radical call and to obedience, and also a radical call to a lifestyle that is honoring to God and beneficial to those around us. And when we do belong, the greatest belonging we could ever have, belong to God and through Christ. And yun po din ang susi, di ba, Attorney Winnie Maloi, to making peace and being purveyors of peace so that conflicts are diminished in a broken world that we live in. Medyo bitin ang ating oras. We need to wrap up. Any last words from you guys about today's topic on the power of forgiveness and, of course, peacemaking?
Oo, nakakabitin pa yung isang oras, ano? Lalo na kung tatlong mga masalita ang nagsama-sama.
Yan. Oo nga. Pero at peace naman tayo, ha?
At peace tayo, di ba? Sana yung ating mga viewers ngayon ay at peace din at merong napulot buhat sa ating conversation.
Oo nga.
Pero kung babalikan natin yung mga naibahagi na the things that we shared, one thing that we will realize is forgiveness being able to make peace with yourself, with other people, with God is something that is supernatural. It is not natural to us.
Yes.
The natural us are selfish people. The natural us are proud people. The natural us would like to be served than to serve. So to be able to forgive your spouse, your child, your friend who betrayed you, to be able to forgive others is something that you cannot do apart from the Holy Spirit, apart from God. It is only those who have truly experienced how it is to be forgiven by God that
Mhm.
will find in themselves the ability to forgive others as well. So, kung gusto natin na maging peacemakers, kailangan natin ang Diyos sa buhay natin. We need to
Mhm.
experience how it is to be at peace with God first, to be reconciled with God first. I am not saying that after you experience a personal relationship with God, forgiveness will come out automatically or easily. It will still be difficult, but you will have that desire to be reconciled with others because it will become paramount in your life to honor God. Kaya gusto mong makipagbati kahit na napakahirap nito. Kaya gusto mong ma-reconcile yung relationship mo with other people kahit na nasaktan ka. Kasi ang magiging motivation na natin ay i-honor ang Panginoon sa mga relationships natin. Sa pamilya, sa trabaho, sa church, sa ating komunidad. So if you want to truly be reconciled, if you have someone in your life whom you need to forgive, I pray that you will find that courage to ask God for grace, to ask God for that enabling power to extend forgiveness to the person whom you have, who hurt you in your life or in your journey.
Attorney, we need
Pastor Eric,
yeah.
yes. As we're talking about this, many situations in the past come back to life sa isipan ko at natutuwa ako dahil hindi lang tayong tatlo nagkwekwentuhan dito. Marami ring nakiki-interact, marami ring nakikinig, gaya nila Pastor JP Kabuhat at kasama rin natin si Pastor Parkin Young who asked this question, is it necessary to let the offender know that you have forgiven them even if they have not apologized? I am brought back to a specific instance in my life many years back wherein I was a recipient of forgiveness. And the person who forgave me really told me na pinapatawad niya ako. At that time, hindi ko maintindihan, bakit mo kailangan patawarin? Wala naman akong ginawang masama. Wala naman akong atraso sa'yo. Pero it was so important for him to say that I forgive you. And that short one-liner echoes in my mind even many years after the incident happened. Na importante, in a very nice, in a very tactful way, we also tell the person that he has been forgiven. At sabi ko nga, importante na hindi lang tayo marunong magpatawad, kundi maganda rin, ma-experience din natin kung paano tumanggap ng forgiveness at saka grasya ng ibang tao eh. At kung tayo naman yung kailangan magbigay ng forgiveness, we have to tell ourselves na sa ngayon, ikaw yung magbibigay ng forgiveness because you will never know when in the future you will also need to be forgiven by others. So, importante na mapaalala natin sa sarili natin yun na magpatawad ka ngayon. Dahil hindi mo alam, baka sa susunod na araw, sa susunod na linggo, ikaw naman yung hihingi ng patawad at gusto mo, ibigay rin sa'yo yung forgiveness at saka yung grace. So again, it's so important to really communicate to the other person that you have forgiven him. And when you say that, you really have to mean it. And you have to release the person na hindi mo na parang uulit-ulitin, hindi mo parang isusumbat. Talagang naranasan ko yun kung paano ako pinatawad ng tao at kinalimutan. At yung treatment na binibigay sa akin, it was as if nothing wrong happened. It's as if we were operating on a clean slate. And that was very important, and I appreciated that even many years after it happened.
Wow. Thank you so much for those wonderful insights on forgiveness, making peace. And one of the things that you mentioned, Attorney Winnie, is about forgiveness. And sometimes we need to do that to ourselves too. We're conflicted inside when there's hurt and pain and a sense of failure, but that we are unable to forgive ourselves. That will make it difficult for us to forgive others too and to live with others in peace. Pag tayo toxic mismo, naipon na yung conflict sa buhay natin, and then we drive people away because it just overflows, no. So kailangan din talaga yung sinabi nga ni Maloy, that we need to be at peace with ourselves, and that can only happen if we are at peace with God. Kasi when we're face to face with God, He heals us. We begin to recognize our limitations and humility, accept who we are, but at the same time accept who God is too, and His wonderful, powerful, stubborn love expressed so powerfully in grace. No, this amazing grace, this scandalous grace, na being loved by someone, even at the height of our rebellion. Sabi nga ni kinote na verse ni Attorney Winnie on Romans 8. And friends, sorry po, our time is up. Attorney Winnie, Malloy, thank you so much for this wonderful evening. Maybe we can do a part two, do more talks in the coming days on other topics. But tonight, we hope that you are able to enjoy this 1 hour or so with us here on Belonging, a weekly conversation here at Green Hills Christian Fellowship on various topics of building community, nurturing community, and the issues that war against community and the issues that nurture community. So please join us every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m. via Facebook, Green Hills Christian Fellowship, and our YouTube channel, GCF Maine. Once again, our final goodbye, Attorney Winnie and Malloy. Thank you for joining us this evening. And friends, thank you. God bless you. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you so much. God bless you.